Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. The America's Ascension tournament is underway and some big drama going down last night with M80 up against the Union in the very first round of the group stages. Not the result that M80 were looking for at all, and some drama again emerging around the past of some of the guys on this Union roster that make them not exactly the fan favourites to go ahead and win this tournament. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's dive straight into things. First of all, if you guys are, I don't know if anyone actually watches these videos in China, but even if you wanted to go to China to watch the Chinese qualifying tournaments, because this is going to be probably the biggest qualifier in terms of matches in the world, because if you guys haven't followed this, there's no guaranteed spots for the Chinese teams at the World Championship, so they have to qualify all through a qualifier, basically a last chance qualifier, but there's 3 teams that make it rather than just 1 as in most other regions, and 2 in Europe and EMEA, because Fnatic won, so they get an extra spot there. But the bracket for this tournament is absolutely wild, because there's going to be, I think, 6 best of 5s. Every matchup that is potentially for qualification is going to be a best of 5, and then every matchup beyond that in the tournament is also going to be a best of 5 as well, because once you play a best of 5, you can't really stop playing it at that point. So, it's going to be a crazy tournament. This is, July 13th, 14th, pretty much when these qualifiers are going on, aligned as well with the LCQs going on in the other regions. But before then, the Ascension tournament is going on. Before we get to that, though, the Premier Beta is going to return. July the 11th, they're bringing it back, extended from 4 days to 1 week. The weekly matches start July the 20th. The playoff tourney is going to begin August the 13th. Couple of changes they've made to try and improve the performance of making a team. Each match schedule has been adjusted per region. Matches in the playoffs will have live scores, and a new format for the playoffs. I know people have been mentioning, though, can they do a tactical pause? This is one of the things that people really want to see. It's, quite easy to do in Counter-Strike and other games to actually take a technical or tactical pause if you would like to. It's a feature that's being worked on, but is apparently not ready to go quite yet. So, I guess stay tuned for this one, potentially for the next version of it, and also multiple queue windows are being worked on. So, a few things they're trying to tweak around and improve on the Premier side, but that's what we have for now. Also, there's been some discussion on potentially next up players. We see this every so often. People say, oh, this guy, he's going to be the next big thing. And Bones, I think he's a player that's been talked about for some time, who has just had some very impressive results recently. And Flyer says this kid is 16, can play every agency in the game, has better comms than most pros, and can take criticism. Literal ideal prospect for this game. I'm calling it right now that he's going to get recognized as a tier 1 level player the second he gets a chance and more experience. So that is a name and, a player card and a profile picture to keep your eyes on over the coming days and months. Also, TenZ says his stream going live on 8 PM Pacific today, got an off day tomorrow. So Sentinels actually taking an off day from scrims. We saw yesterday, I mean, teams do this, right? They usually take 1 day off a week or something like that, which makes sense because, absolutely grinding every single day on practice. Probably better to take a day off now and again, maybe just do some VOD review or something. But yeah, they're going to take a day off. The practice, I suppose, so he's going to be grinding the stream all day. And Sentinels feeling confident for sure going into the last chance qualifier. But their first game they play against 100 Thieves is loser goes home. There's no losers bracket if you lose that match, so it's certainly a big one, and they've known who they're going to play for some time, so both teams can prepare for that game as best as they can, but whoever turns up on the day is going to win it. But before we get to the LCQ, Ascension is the big storyline going on at the moment. 1 team from each of the 3 regions around the world will qualify for their respective franchise league. The favourites going into this one for sure, M80. These guys dominated the Americas side, but fundamentally they played teams that maybe aren't quite as strong or maybe are different playstyle in general than at the teams they might find in Brazil and in South America. They're currently in Sao Paulo and they played their first game of the tournament yesterday. Now, this is a group stage into a playoff bracket type situation. And the group stage is not the same as it was, let's say, in Masters Tokyo, where if you lost in your group, then you're out of the tournament, right? It's not like that. Every team that plays in this group stage will get through, no problem. It's just seeding that matters as the tournament progresses. So as Nismo says, game day versus the Union need all the NA energy. The Union are pretty much the other hot favourite team for this tournament. It's a lot of people think it's either going to be M80 or the Union, but of course there's other strong teams from that region, and the Guard, you certainly can't count those guys out as well. Here's Psycho right now working for M80. They're on the stage before their matchup began, M80 versus the Union on the other side of things, and it certainly did not go to plan for them. Now, I will mention for you guys, because this has been a big talking point with the Union over the last several days, and even weeks and months to be honest, that they're not exactly exactly going to be the fan favorite team here. Now, the reason for this is because two of their players, one of them being Pank, who a couple of years ago was accused and then apologized for effectively sexually harassing a minor, which is, you know, we don't want to talk about stuff like this. So this was his apology at the time from January 2021, and then even more recently than that, we have this article, actually is, well, 2021 September, when their player NTK was arrested for assaulting his ex-girlfriend. So, look, we're just going to say that players on that team aren't particularly well liked by the community, and large swathes of the community are like, damn, why did these guys have to be the best Brazilian team from Ascension? Couldn't it be the other guys that have a slightly cleaner track record, let's say? But yeah, I mean, to be honest, right, we've got to talk about it because Sinatraa, obviously what he was banned for, you know, from competing, suspended from competing, and still, even though he might technically be allowed to return, he's not going to come back, it seems, because organizations, at least for now, won't give him a shot, right? They don't want to be associated with that brand. But for these guys who are accused and even arrested of such, you know, events, they're playing perfectly fine, right? They might be enfranchising next season, potentially. So definitely a controversial one, absolutely. But whatever you guys think about that, they are playing in the Ascension tournament, and they are one of the, if not now, barely the favorites, right? Because M80 were probably the favorites coming into this one, and then you have the Union taking them down. This was a crazy matchup, actually. Game 1, M80 just didn't really come out swinging at all. They lost pretty comfortably here on the Fracture, 13-7, I believe it was. And then Game 2 was really competitive on the Pearl, and it went all the way to a deep overtime, where eventually the Union got the job done to a 2-0 over M80 in the very first matchup. Now, you will say, of course, that they've been playing everything online for a long time. This is their first LAN game in, well, basically ever as a team, to be honest, because everything, especially in Tier 2, is done online. Finally, there's a LAN going on, and look, Nismo made some nice plays to make it 15-14, but in the end, that was not enough, as the Union rattled off 3 straight rounds to win the series. So as Nismo says, tough loss, 0-2 versus the Union, all good. Everyone knows we come back stronger after losses, and I mean, look, playing on LAN is different, and this is the thing, that it's the first LAN game. Koala Noob says the LAN nerves are now gone, and we're good to go. John QT is like, yeah, I felt sick for the entire stay so far for different reasons. I'll get better though. Thankful for the seeding groups to get used to these setups. So I think it's early days, and M80 can certainly and probably will turn it around. But it's very interesting because they are going into the favourites here. Union take them down round 1. We'll see how the guards get on tonight, because they're one of the other hot favourites, of course, from the region. And as Xander says, good warm-up match to get used to the LAN environment. We will be better. So yeah, 2-0 overall. Fracture was 13-7, not particularly close. And then it was 17-15 on Pearl. Really close series here. And yeah, NTK and Pank with the 2 highest overall ratings here, according to VLR. Of course, the 2 players that are really deep in all that controversy. Aska, a very promising player as well, on some of the highlights that I saw. But yeah, M80 go down. And I will say this reminds me and many others, if you guys remember this, from when they used to be Ghost Gaming, right? So this is last season, John QT, Koala Noob, Nismo, etc., etc. Kaplan was the coach at the time, now with Sentinels. And this roster was so good in challenges for some time. They made a lot of progress. You guys might remember this. The end of last season, Stage 2 challenges. 2-1 the Guard, 2-0 NRG, 2-0 TSM, 2-0 100 Thieves. They were looking unbelievable. They turned up to the playoffs and got bodied. 0-2'd by Evil Geniuses, 0-2'd by NRG, straight out of the tournament, and they played so badly compared to what they'd done previously that I think it was Sentinels that they allowed to get a last chance qualifier spot, because Ghost, I think, would have taken it from them had they not got bodied here, but they did. So I'm pretty sure that it was Sentinels that got it instead. So, you know, it's interesting that Ghost Gaming have a bit of a history. Okay, they played some NSGs after this, but bit of a history of when they get to the big pressure moments, the playoffs, the important games, they aren't necessarily as good as they were on LAN. Now, maybe things have changed for them, but I'm sure that there are people thinking, you know what, maybe it's going to be a similar situation that occurs again, where the former Ghost Core, now with M80, get to the big tournament where, you know, things are about to happen and then they collapse. So I think that it's too early to say at this point, and obviously they're getting used to the LAN setups and stuff, and the first matches don't really mean that much anyway because it's just for seeding. But still, the number 1 seed is a valuable thing to have, and the Union will almost certainly acquire it now after they play their next game. The other matchup in the other group was 00 Nation, 00 Nation versus NZ, and you know, this, I mean, this is a crazy series. Like, these guys are all over the place, just absolutely absolute madness on the map all of the time, but in the end it was Double O Nation that got the victory. And again, another Brazilian team looking pretty good. So 13-8 on Fractured, then 13-11 on Haven. Close series for sure, but today we'll see how the Guard are looking, because the Guard play these guys then, and there's also going to be the M80 versus the Fusion guys. So all of these 6 teams make it through to the playoffs anyway, but the number 1 seed gets a bye in the bracket, and the number 2 and number 3 seed, so let's say M80 finish second in the group, they will play the 3rd placed team from the other group, and then the winner of that then goes forward. So I think that it could still work out quite well for these teams anyway, and M80, it's only early days for them, but I know that there's a lot of fans that are saying, damn, the Union are looking like potentially the best team to win Ascension and qualify all the way through, which would be highly controversial for many of the reasons we've discussed over the previous few minutes. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.